Hello everyone, welcome to the course of Programming Fundamentals with Python. This is week number 7, and in the theory lectures, if you remember, in this week we studied two different types of loops. They are the while loop and the for loop. So in this session I am going to talk about the programs which will demonstrate the concept of the while and for loops in detail. This is our first program for this week. The first three lines are comments. It actually tells us that we are in week number 7 and this is program number 1. And what is the purpose of this program? So this program will print the value of a loop counter variable. Counter variable is a variable which we actually use to control the execution of the loop. So let us discuss this program line by line. Here we are declaring a variable with the name I. If you remember, in the theory class, I told you that for our loops, we actually prefer to use short variables like I, J, K, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, etc. Okay. So the recommendation is that use I, J, K variable name instead of using the long descriptive variable names. So the variable name here is I, and the initial value of this variable is 0. So I'm actually assigning the variable 0, the value 0 to this variable. And then here is the while loop. If you remember, the while loop has two parts. In the first part, we actually check the condition, and in the second part, we actually write the statement or group of statements that we want to execute. So here, in this case, I am checking the condition first, and if the condition is true, these two statements will be executed. And for the statements of the while loop, you have to give indentation. So you can see that line number 6 and line number 7, they have indentation. They have the empty spaces, right? So let us first check the condition. The initial value of I is 0. So check whether 0 is less than 10. Yes, the condition is true because 0 is less than 10. So what does it mean? If this condition is true, these two statements will be executed. So here we will print the value of I, that is 0. So 0 will be displayed on the screen. Next, come to the second statement inside the while loop body. This is also part of the while loop. Okay. So what is happening here? I have a variable I and the value of that variable is 0. What I'm doing is I am actually adding a 1 with the previous value of this variable. So now the new value of this variable will be 1. You see here, take the previous value of I, that is 0, as I did here, and add 1 with this variable, with the value of this variable. So 0 plus 1, you will get 1. After the incrementation, you have to go back to the while loop. You have to check the condition again. Okay. This loop will be executed as long as this condition is true. So go back. Now consider the value of I. The new value of I is 1 now. We have incremented it. You see, the new value is 1. So check the condition again. 1 is less than 10. Yes, the condition is true. Then execute this statement. Print the value of I. So the new value of I is 1. 1 will be executed. Come to the second statement. Here we have to increment the value by 1. So 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Now the new value of I is 2. Check the condition again. 2 is less than 10. Yes, condition is true. Print the value of I, that is 2. Come to the second statement of the while loop body. Increment the value by 1. You will get 3. Now this is the new value for I. Go back. Check the condition. Condition is true. Yes. And this loop will happen again and again and again until the condition is true. Once the value of I become 10, check the condition. 10 is less than 10? No, that is false. 10 is not less than 10. So once the condition becomes false, this statement will not be executed. This statement will not be executed because the execution of these statements depend on the condition. Once the condition becomes false, these statements will not be executed and the control will transfer to the next statement. If there is no next statement, the program will simply terminate. If you run this program, I have saved the program on the desktop. You will see the output 0 up to 9. 10 is not included. So this is how you can use the while loop to print the counter loop variable current values. Our next program will also demonstrate the concept of while loop. Here is our second program. What I'm doing here, I want to print the value of the loop counter variable again, but this time in concatenation with a string. So this is the same program like the previous one. We have a variable I, initial value is 0. The while loop first part, that is the while statement, while is a keyword, and then the condition check. Remember, the parentheses are optional, but I love to use them, so I'm using them. If you omit them, doesn't matter, your program is still fine. And then we want to display this statement. So what's important to note here is the character F. F stands for format. Hey, first print this string until here, the current value of I is. And then after printing it, print the value of the variable I. So the current value of I is 0. It will print 0 here. With the help of this, we have to enclose it in the curly braces, and then for concatenation, we actually use the character F. After the execution of this statement, come to the second statement, which is also part of the while loop body, and increment the value of the I by 1 as we did in the previous example. So this will increment the value by 1. The previous value of I was 0. Now the value of I is 1. Check the condition again. 1 is less than 10. Yes, condition is again true. Execute this statement again. Now the current value of I is 1, so 1 will be displayed. In the next iteration, the value will be 2, so 2 will be displayed, then 3 will be displayed until we reach to the final condition check, that is 10. Let us run this program. You see, same output 0 up to 9, but this time we are printing the statement, the string literal, with in front of every iteration for the value I. So the current value of I is 0 in the first iteration, then 1, then 2 up to 9. Let us move to our third program for this week. Here is our program. Now print a message 10 times. Instead of printing the value of a variable, you can use a loop to print a message multiple times. Again, we have a variable I, initial value is 0. Check a condition. While I is less than 10, print this value. Print me 10 times. This will simply display the statement 10 times on the screen. And we need to increment the variable value I by 1 every time. Let me tell you a couple of things here which are important to understand. You can also write this like this. Is the same thing, it is actually equal to this statement. Here we are using a compound assignment operator. So both are the same. If you write this statement okay, it will do the same thing as this statement did. Second thing that I would like to mention here is that if you remove this statement, this loop will become an infinite loop and it will execute forever. Okay, if you run this program, the loop will be executed again and again and again. Why? Because here the value of I, initial value is 0. The condition check, 0 is less than 10. Okay, condition is true. Once the condition is true, execute this statement. After the execution of this statement, go back to the while condition and check. So now the value of I will be 0 forever because we did not increment the value. So again 0 will be compared with 10. Again the condition is true. Again the statement will be executed. Go back, check the condition, and this loop will execute forever. And such type of loop is called infinite loop. It is important to note that while working with the loop, one of the common mistakes that students make is that sometimes they do not increment or decrement the value of the loop variable. But it's important in order to avoid the infinite loop condition. So let us check the output of this program. Print me 10 times, print me 10 times, and so on. Our next program is also about the while loop. However, now we want to display or print the even numbers up to a specific number provided by the user. So a good programming practice is that your program must be a descriptive, self-explanatory. It's like an essay. If somebody wants to run this program, the program must communicate with the person in an efficient way. For that purpose, I am using a statement, a lengthy statement, which is here the string constants or string literal. Enter a number up to which you want to find the even numbers. As we know that even numbers are started with 0, so the initial value of I here is 0. This program will start from 0, and then we are checking the condition. While 0 is less than or equal to the number specified by the user, let's suppose the user has entered 10 from the keyboard. So the value of number is 10. We have to check this condition. 0 is less than 10. Yes, the condition is true. Then these three statements will be executed as they are inside the loop body. So first, inside the while loop, I am using another condition, and the condition is the if statement. So I'm going to check whether the number is completely divisible by 2 or not. As we know that a number is even if it is equally or completely divisible by 2. Or in other words, we can say that if the remainder of a division is equal to 0, then the number is considered to be an even number. And for in Python, for finding the remainder, we have to use the modulus operator, which is also known as remainder operator. So here I am using remainder operator. So let us see. Divide 0 by 2. Is the output going to be 0? Yes. So if the output is true, then this statement will be executed. Otherwise, this statement will not be executed. Although this is part of the while loop, this is inside the while loop body, but this will not be executed once the condition is false. In this case, for 0, the value, if the value of I is 0, this statement will be executed. Next, we are incrementing the value of the loop counter variable by 1. So previously the value of I was 0. Once you add 1 with the previous value, the new value will become 1. Now the new value of I is 1. Check the condition. 1 is less than or equal to 10. Yes, condition is true. Then we have to execute the body of the loop. Here we are going to check the second condition. Divide 1 by 2. Is the remainder equal to 0? No. The remainder of this is not equal to 0, which means this statement will not be executed. Right? So as 1 is not an even number, we know that 1 is odd number, so this will not be displayed. Again, come to the next statement. Here we have to increment the value of I by 1. So the previous value was 1. The new value of I is 2. This is the new value. Again, check the condition in the while loop body. In the while loop condition statement, 2 is less than 10. Yes, again condition is true. Come to the body of the loop. Divide 2 by 2. If you see here, we are actually taking I, the value of I. So first the value of I was 0, then it was 1, and now it is 2. Divide 2 by 2. When you divide 2 by 2, the remainder will be equal to 0. So the condition is true. Once the condition becomes true, you have to execute this statement. So this statement will be executed. And then you will see 2 is printed on the screen. Next time you have to increment the value by 1. Now the new value of I is 3. And then you have to repeat the same process again and again until we reach the final value of the condition, which is mentioned here and represented by the number. So if you run this program, you will see all the even numbers between 0 and 10. You see, 0 is an even number, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. 10 is also included in the list because we have put equal sign here. If you remove this equal sign, then the list will print the even numbers till 8. Now 10 is not part of it. Now I have a question. If you want to print the odd number by using the same code, where you need to make changes, you have two different versions for converting this program to print the odd number instead of printing the even number. Option number 1, you have to put another operator which is called the not operator, not equal operator. Divide I by 2 and check the remainder. If the remainder is not equal to 0, then print that it is an odd number. Okay, so now we are going to write a program for the odd number. Let us run this program. You will see all the odd number between 0 and 10, that is 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So this is the first way of writing a program for the odd number. The second method is that instead of using the not equal operator, you can actually replace the 0 with 1. Divide any number by 2. If the remainder is equal to 1, it means that the number is an odd number. It will display the same output. Okay, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So you have two different options available. Let us quickly move to our next program for this week. And our next program is the last program which will demonstrate the concept of the while loop. Here we are going to find the average of n natural numbers. Natural number, you know, started from 1 and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. This is the natural numbers. N mean up to which number you want to find the average of the natural number. So for example, from here the user has input 3. I want the average of first 3 natural number. So let me do some basic mathematical calculations in order to find an average. What we need to do is that we need a formula, that is sum divided by total number. So we know that in our case the sum is like the first 3 natural number, that is 1 plus 2 plus 3, and the total number in this case, that is n, is equal to 3. So it is equal to 6 divided by 3. From here you will get 2. So in this case, if you provide the number 3 up to which you want to find the average of the first 3 natural number, then the output is going to be 2. So we need to write a program to depict this thing. I is a variable which I need to control the loop. Sum is another variable because I need the sum of the natural numbers. Now here I'm using the while loop. So this is the first part of the while loop. Put the values. The current value of I is 1 because natural numbers start from 1. Check the condition. The number input by the user is 3. So 1 is less than or equal to 3. Yes, condition is true. Once the condition is true, you have to execute these two statements. So we have to, we need to execute these 3 statements. Okay, a sum is equal to sum plus I. What is the previous value of sum? 0. We declare the sum equal to 0 in order to avoid garbage values. Right? If you do not initialize the variable sum to a value, doesn't matter. That's okay, fine. Okay, so sum is equal to sum plus I. So the previous value of sum is 0. Add the value of I. So the current value of I is 1. Add them. What you will get? 1. And store this value in the variable sum. Come to the next statement because it is also part of the loop body. Here we are actually incrementing the current value of I by 1. So the previous value was 1, the new value is 2. As we are dealing with the loop, you have to go back and check the condition again. Now 2 is less than 3 or equal to 3. Yes, condition is true. What you have to do here is to take the previous value of sum, which is 1, and add the new value of I, which is 2. You will get 3. So now the updated value of some variable is 3. Come to the next statement, increment the value of I by 1. Now the new value of I is 3. As we are dealing with the loop, go back, check the condition again. 3 is equal to 3. Yes, the condition is true. Then here you have to execute these two statements again and again until the condition is true. So now take the previous value of sum, there is 3, and 8, the new value of I, there is also 3. So 3 plus 3 is equal to 6. You see, we got the sum, which is mentioned here as well. So that is the sum of the first 3 natural number. Come to the second statement, execute it, increment the value of I by 1. Now the new value of I is 4. Now see the condition. 4 is less than 3? No. 4 is equal to 3? No. The condition is false. Once the condition becomes false, this statement will not be executed and this statement will not be executed. We have to come to the next statement of the program, which is actually to calculate the average. So here's the formula. As I mentioned here, sum divided by total numbers. So the value of sum is 6 and the value of number provided by the user is 3. So once you divide 6 by 3, you will get 2. And then finally we want to display the value of this variable average, that is 2. Once you run this program, you will get the same output, that is 2. So 2 is the average of the first 3 natural number. So these were some programs which demonstrate the concept of while loop. Now let us move to the second type of loop, which is known as for loop. Okay, let me mention some important points. Sometimes it is possible to solve a solution, to solve a given problem, by using any of the loop. Like you have an option available. You can solve a given problem by using the while loop, and you can solve the same problem by using the for loop. So it's common, but the for loop is a more compact loop. It's more easier to understand because everything happens in one line. In the while loop, we saw that you have to initialize the variable, then you have to check the condition in the second line, and then you have to increment or decrement the variable in another line. But in for loop, we will see that all the things will happen in a single line. And for loop is a common loop. Every programming language has the for loop facilities available, and programmers prefer to use the for loop as compared to the while loop. So let us see. This is our program number 6, and it is about the for loop. First, we want to print the value of the loop counter variable. Exactly the same thing that we did in the while loop. The syntax is different. Here we start with the keyword for, then name of the variable, in this case I. In is also a keyword. If you remember in the syntax, I told you about the for, in, range, and this colon, which is part of the syntax, and this is body of the for loop. The statement will be executed again and again as long as this number doesn't reached. So here range is a built-in function which we normally use with the for loop. I will talk more about the range function in the next program, but here actually this 10 represent the final value. Like we saw in the while loop, if you want something to execute 10 times, then you have to write 10 here in the range value. That is actually a parameter that we are passing to the range function. So 10 is actually the final value. And what will happen here, that the initial value of I by default is equal to 0 and the final value is 10, which is mentioned here. So first we have to check this condition. So put the value of I, that is 0, and check the condition. whether 0 is less than 10. Yes, condition is true. Then print I. Execute this statement. It will print 1 on the screen. Sorry, 0 on the screen, because the current value of I is 0. Now you see, we do not need to write something like this here as we did in the while loop, because this thing happens here automatically. So as we are dealing with the loop, after execution of this statement, we have to go back to the for statement and check the condition for the new value of I. The previous value of I was 0. The new value of I is 1. Check the condition again. Yes, 1 is less than 10. Print the current value of I. Again, go back, increment the value by 1. It will become 2, and check the condition. Condition is true. Execute this. And this will work like this iteratively. Once we reach to 10, once the value of I become 10, the condition will become false. 10 is less than 10. No, the condition is false. Then this statement will not be executed. So it is important to note that 10 means print this statement 10 times, whatever it is, but starting from 0. Once you start from 0, you will see that 10 is not included. And also you can see from the condition check that actually we do not have an equal sign here. If we put an equal sign here, it means that the loop will execute for the value of 10 as well. But the default is that it is less than 10, so the 10 is not included here. Once you run the program, the output of this program is the same as we saw in the while loop. Let us move to the next program, which is also about the for loop, but here we are going to introduce something new. This program will do the same thing. However, here I have put something now. You see, now I am passing 2 arguments to the variable range, to the function range. Now this is actually the initial value, and this is the, as we saw, the final value. It is like if you run the program, the output would be a bit different, and you can see the different. Here we have started the value from 0, while here the value is started from 1. So by default, if you do not mention the value, initial value, then it will consider the value 0 by default. However, if you want to start the loop from 1 instead of 0, then you have to explicitly write the 1. In a similar way, if you want the loop variable to start from 2, then you have to write the 2 here. What does it mean? 2 things. This is actually the initial value that this variable will take. Second thing, this value is optional. If you do not provide it, it will automatically assign the value 0 to the variable I. But you can actually do it in an explicit way like this. So this was the second thing which is important and related with the range function. Our next program for the for loop is also about the range function. Now we have put a third value as well. If you remove this value, you will see that the output of this program is exactly the same as the previous one. If you started with 1. What does it mean? The third value actually represent incrementation, or it is also called the step value, right? Like for example, if you remember the while loop, we did something like this to increment the value of I by 1. What if we want to increment the value of I by 2? We have to put a 2 here. What if we want to increment the value of I by 3? We have to put here. In a similar way, in the for loop, if you want to increment the value of I by 1, you have to put 1 here. If you want to increment the value of I by 2, you have to put 2 here. Now you will see that the number of times the statement is executed is minimized, because the value of I take a jump of 2 now. First, the initial value is 1. 1 will be compared with the 10. 1 is less than 10, true. So it will display the value of I, which is 1. Then check the condition again, but now you have to add 2 with 1. This is actually the incrementation, the step value. So 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. 3 is less than 10, yes, so print it. Go back and now add 2 with 3. You will get 5. Check the condition, yes, true. Print it, go back, add 2 with 5, you will get 7. Yes, condition is true. Execute. Go back, add 2 with 7, you will get 9, and print it. Go back, add 2, it will become 11. Check the condition. Condition now become false, so this statement will not be executed. So the output of this program will be 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So let me conclude. This range function has 3 values. Initial value, the second value represent the final value, while the third value represent the step value or jump value or incrementation. And last thing is that this value is actually optional, and this value is also optional, right? So the first value and the step is actually they are optional. If you do not provide them, the initial value will be considered to be 0, and if you do not provide this step value, then the default value is considered to be 1. So this was about the range function which we normally use in the for loop. Now let us move to the next program which is related with the for loop concept, and let us explain it. So this is simple. Now you understand, if we have a single value here, it means this is the final value which is required. The other two values, the initial and the step, they are actually optional. If they are not mentioned, which means that we have to consider the default values. So the default value for the initial is 0, while the default value for the step is 1. So if you write like this way, okay, but if you want to omit them, doesn't matter. It will consider automatically the default values. So I want to print this statement 10 times. This is like the while loop. So this statement will be displayed 10 times on the screen. Okay, one more thing. This statement is actually not part of the for loop body. So because from the indentation you can see. So this will be displayed only once. However, if you want this statement to be displayed 10 times, then you have to make it part of the for loop body, and for that you have to give the indentation. So now it is displayed 10 times. Once you remove the indentation, it will be displayed only once at the end of the program. Okay, let us move one step further, and I want to solve a problem that I have already solved by using the while loop, and that is I want to print the even number. So the logic is the same. Divide a number by 2. If the remainder is 0, then it is an even number, and I need a number up to which I want to display the even number, and I want the user to provide this number to the program. So I have to display this text message on the screen to the user. You can see here I'm using a loop counter variable. The initial value of this counter variable will be 0, although it is not mentioned, but we know the number is the final value. So the value of number, let's suppose the user has input 10. So the number, the value yahan pe, the number here will be 10. Okay, so you can use constant variable, you can pass a constant variable, or even you can use a variable inside the range function, which is called as an argument. So divide it. If the remainder is 0, print that it is an even number, otherwise do not execute this statement. So once you run this program, you will see that it will display all the even number between 0 and 10. Remember, 10 is not included because yes, 10 is not included because we are starting from the 0, and that is number is less than 10. Equal is not there. If you want it, if you want to include the 10 as well, then you have to provide 11 here. Okay, let's go to another program. Now I want to add the sum of all even numbers up to a specific number specified by the user. So in this case, I need to declare another variable. For example, even, sum, add, you can give it any name. Rest of the program is same. Now I want to start it to start it from 1, but you can actually start it from 0 as well, doesn't matter. Okay, first, here the logic is the same. Divide the number by 2. If the remainder is 0, the number is even. Once the number is even, you need to add them out. So for example, previously the value of even is 0. So the next even number we know is 2. So 2 will be added with 0 and it will give you 2. Next time the even number is 4. So 4 will be added with the previous value of even, that is 2. 2 plus 4 is equal to 6, and then so on. Next even number will be added with the even value, and so on. Once you run this program, you will see that it will first ask you for a number. Let's suppose the number is 4. I want to add the even number up to 4. So we know that the even number between 0 and 4 is 0, 2, and 4 is not included. Remember, 4 is not included. So you will get 2, because 0 plus 2 is equal to 2. If you provide 6 here, then the total number of even number is going to be 2 plus 4, which will give you 6. However, if you provide 7, then 6 will be included. So 6 plus 6 is 12. Our next program is about finding the sum of even number as well as odd number. Both the things will happen in the same program. The same concept. Ask the user to provide a number. For example, the user has input 8 here. Now take two variables, one for adding the even number and one for adding the odd number, and initialize them to 0. Previously we do not have any value stored in them. I is a loop variable. Initial value is 1. You can also take 0, doesn't matter. And the final value is number. So in this case, the final value is going to be at 8. Check the condition. If the number divided by 2 and the remainder is 0, consider it as an even number. If it is not an even number, then it means that it is an odd number. So add it with the previous value of odd. And then finally print that the sum of all the even number is even and the sum of all the odd number is odd. So once you run this program, you will see that it will display the output by saying that the sum of all even number till 8 is 12, while the sum of all odd number till 8 is 16. You can do the mathematical calculation whether to check whether it is true or not. Okay, our last program for this week is actually a bit different. And if you remember, in the theory week, we talked about this program, and I told you that sometimes the students are asked by the faculty member to write the code for this problem. So here's the problem. Write a program that will display the following. Once you observe the input, the problem, you will see that first thing we need to do is to write a string on the first line, which contain two things, number and square. And in between the number and square, we have empty space. So here is the first line will actually represent that string. You see, I write number and then square here. In between the number and square is escape sequence \t, which is for adding a tab between these two strings. It will display number, and then with the help of /t, it will create empty space, 7-8 characters, and then it will display the square. Now come to the second line. Is a dashed line. You can count the number of dashes and then you can write them inside the double quote to make them as a string literals. So the second print line will actually display the line. Now things are happening here. First thing to understand is that we need a variable which will count these values starting from 1. The initial value will be 1 and the final value of this variable is 10. So you can solve this by using for loop or by using while loop. I am using for loop. So the initial value here is going to be 1 and the final value is 10, but we need to put 11 here because remember the condition is like this. While here the loop variable is number, while number is less than 11, right? So 10 is included. If you write 10 here, then the 10 will be excluded. So that is why we have put 11 here. Now, for numbers, I need a counter variable, and I called it number. The initial value is 1. The final value will be 10. What else I need is the square of each number. For example, first the initial value of number is 1. So I need the square of 1. And if you remember the arithmetic operator, for square, we actually use this operator, double static. It will actually, what will happen? It will actually take the square of this number. So the square of 1 is 1. And we are actually storing the square, the result of this expression, in a variable square. And then we are printing the value of this of the result stored in the square. So print, first we need to print the number, and then we need to print the square, the resultant of this expression. And in between, we want to give an empty space or a tab with the help of \t escape sequence. So let us see how this will work. The initial value of number is 1. Okay. Compare them. Compare these two numbers. 1 is less than 11. Yes, condition is true, which means we have to execute this statement. Now what this statement means, find the square. 1 multiply 1 square 1, and we know that it is equal to 1. And now we want to display these two values. So the value of I is 1, which will be displayed with the help of this. And then the value of the square, so the current value of square is 1, display it with the help of this variable name. And in between, place some empty spaces. And remember, both these two statements are inside the body of the for loop. Okay, go back, check the condition again. Now the new value of number is 2. Check the condition. Yes, 2 is less than 11. Okay, come here, take the value of number. Now the new value of number is 2, and take its square. 2 square 2, you will get 4. Okay, now store this number in the variable square and print the value of number. So then the value of number is 2, it will display 2, and then display the value of square, which is 4. So it will display 4 after giving some spaces. Again, go back, increment the value of number by 1. Now the value is 3. Compare it with 11. The condition is true. Yes, 3 is less than 11. Okay. Take the number, which is 3, multiply it with the number, take the square. So 3 to the square, 3 square is equal to 9. Now print the number. So the number is 3. It will print 3. And then print the square, which is 9. It will print 9. Once you run this program, you will see exactly the same thing that was asked from you in the question. Okay, what's wrong here? Yes, the variable case sensitivity issue. What's oops, yes, sorry. So let us run this program. You will see exactly the same thing that was mentioned in the program. So this was about how we can use for loop and while loop. We saw different programs that demonstrate the concept of while loop and for loop. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel and keep yourself updated with the upcoming videos. Thank you so much. Take care. Goodbye.